we are working outside of the box. We've left the mold of this is how you dairy. We have nothing to hide. Whatever you want to know about the cows that are producing your milk, we can provide that.
So you feeding them grain doesn't take away from the quality of milk?
I know there's a lot of people very interested in grass-fed only. I do not believe at all that cows are getting the nutrition they need on that kind of diet.
Would you say that that helps you, or is it a burden?
I want to be producing a product that I know can go home to your family. I could never imagine the population of people that are seeking raw milk and good food. It's wonderful.
Okay, I'm here with Abby Bram at Pigeon Creek Farms in Pottstown.
We have a micro dairy, which is a newer term, not really necessarily an official term. It's loosely meaning a farm where you're milking under approximately 20 cows. And we started this from scratch just back in 2019.
From scratch?
From scratch. There was an old farm that used to be a dairy, and we wanted to bring it back to life, but in a new way that would actually be able to sustain itself.
So are you from this area?
Yes, born and raised in Pottstown, Pennsylvania with my husband. We were, two township away from one another. I have, been a local my whole life.
What was like your calling to become a farmer? Like,
sure.
When did it click?
Sure. Well, my husband and I met on a dairy farm. He thought I was the farmer's daughter. Had to let him know that I wasn't. He couldn't marry into the farm. And but we both developed a passion for it. He had family members who farmed. I just always loved agriculture, animals, being outside. Mm-hmm. For me, it was a natural fit to invest my time and knowledge and everything into an industry that was what I loved. I would say we didn't have this vision the whole time. We had a vision that we wanted our own piece of land. We wanted to feed our family wholesome food. We wanted this lifestyle connected to the environment.
But this wasn't big picture.
This wasn't the big picture. Actually, when we purchased this farm, we were all working full time, and we thought that it was going to be a beef farm because that required a lot less time invested from us.
Did you just wing it and buy it, or how did you
We bought it with a purpose. We bought it with the purpose of having that piece of land. We bought it with the purpose of including
So it was more like we're going to have land, not we're going to do this type of farming.
Correct. We were gonna have land, and we wanted to include our family. We had lots of experience with dairy cows, lots of experience with chickens, but it was time for us to, kind of see what this land could give us.
How many acres is this?
We have 32 acres. We have 32 acres that originally, when the land was purchased, it was about 15 acres of it were in corn, and the rest was really just let go. So we had to bring it all back to pasture, managed land, fence everything in. We had to do a lot of work to get it to where it is today. There was nothing good happening here, other than it being open land and not being houses. That was the only positive. The house was falling apart. The barn was falling apart. It was in really bad shape.
So how'd you get into dairy farming?
So COVID is what brought us here.
Okay.
I was milking a cow at the time. It felt rather silly, to be honest with you. I was like, what are we doing milking a cow? We had a lot of neighbors, though, that were very interested. They used to purchase milk at the farm my husband and I had met. So they said, well, can we get milk from you? And when you're only milking one cow, the state of Pennsylvania allows you to share that milk from one cow without going through all of the regulations. Once you are milking additional cows, you have to go through all the processes of testing and things. So we were able to share that milk with our neighbors, and then they developed more and more interest in the growth of the farm. So in that, we were able to launch in December of 2020, opened our store milking 3 cows, so still very few, and only providing raw milk. And so that has now built up to where we are today, which is milking about 15 cows. We also offer pasteurized milk, but what it has given us the opportunity to do is to produce food for our community that is clean, that is produced on a small scale that is something that they can connect with, that they can come and they can ask us questions. What are we feeding our cows? What is cows' life like? See where they're living, see what their personalities are like. Whatever you want to know about the cows that are producing your milk, we can provide that for you.
So you have nothing to hide.
We have nothing to hide. Every day there's customers that walk around this farm and are petting our cows and seeing what they're doing. And it is absolutely valuable to their livelihood because now they know what they're getting, and then that leads to them making more choices in all of their food choices that are better and cleaner, and also more educated, because that's the part that I think is where we all get lost.
What is like the optimal way of raising a dairy cow?
So I think we're in a world that it's hard to say a blank statement about that, because there's a lot of people to feed in the country. And so how do we feed all those people and do it the best way possible? I think that large scale farms are a necessity, and I know that they are trying really, really hard to produce the best cow comfort, cow longevity, cow production, health, all of those things.
They have to be profitable though.
Right. Profitability is absolutely vital to that kind of production. Like, numbers are everything. And so unfortunately that becomes a big part of that whole creation of that program. Whereas a small farm like this, when you're raising these animals on pasture, they're eating more natural foods they're supposed to be eating. They are, living a more comfortable life. It's they're meant to be on dirt. They're not meant to be on concrete. But then also all of those components that they're living in are being ingested and turning into their milk, which then we're consuming. So we're getting the best quality milk. So it's the whole process to lead to the end product. Your body's going to feel the difference. We endlessly have customers who have switched from the quote unquote grocery store milk to our milk, and they suddenly feel better.
What is like an optimal diet that would give you the best quality of milk?
We do a forage-based diet, which means primarily grasses. We try to avoid fermented forages, so we primarily feed dry hay, and then we do feed grain to our animals. So we work, actually our daughter works at a feed mill out in New Holland, and we've worked hard over the years. We started with a more basic feed that just uniform everybody got, and we've learned that between their stage of life, their stage of lactation, that we can do a lot better. And so now we have catered feed to meet each expectation of where they are in life. They do get a ration of dry corn, and then they get what we call a concentrated feed, which is primarily it's protein and minerals that is measured out for each individual cow to what their needs are for their size.
So you feeding them grain doesn't take away from the quality of milk?
No, I know there's a lot of people very interested in grass-fed only. So that is a very popular term. A lot of people ask us about it. I do not believe at all that cows are getting the nutrition they need on that kind of diet. They are not like buffalo out west roaming hundreds and thousands of miles to get all the different nutritional needs they need. So like, you think about a farm, there's fences around it. They only can eat the grasses and forages that grow within these fields. They can't go out in those woods and eat the bushes that have more stemmy structure, that are going to have root systems that are deeper and more nutrients. And so we need to supplement that. And that's why, we make all of our own hay, and we do make them from different pastures, and we do grow different grasses, but there's still a void. And so what you'll see is the cows not having optimal health. They'll have more issues with sickness. They'll have more issues with fertility.
So by giving them grain, you're feeding them what they need.
Yep. We have found that our healthiest, best quality milk is made with dry hay and their grain mix. We are working outside of the box. Like we've left the mold of this is how you dairy. One thing that's become very popular is A2 milk, which they've learned a lot about over the course of the last several years, the ability to test for A2 protein in milk, it's the way the milk's naturally made, and each cow does that. Like this cow has A2 milk. So this is Fuchsia, her milk is A2, whereas Rory, that gray cow up there, who's a brown Swiss, I'm not sure yet. We haven't tested her yet because she hasn't had a baby. So we'll send a sample of her milk when she has a calf to the lab, and they'll test the beta casein, and they can tell us if it's A2 or A1 or A1. Basically what that means.
Yeah, what is A2 for someone who wouldn't know?
Yeah, so it's the protein in the milk, the beta casein, and it's basically they have realized that where the term lactose intolerant was widely used, that everybody who is sensitive to milk was what it was lactose. They've actually realized that a huge portion of people sensitive to milk are actually allergic essentially to the beta casein, which is A1.
A1, not A2.
Correct. So most people are sensitive to A1 milk, which in the United States is a prolific amount of milk that we produce, because Holsteins, black and white ones, which is like up there in the pasture, is what the United States primarily uses for milk production. They are the most, they produce the most volume of milk. So as you mentioned before, profitability, money. So they said, Holsteins make the most milk. That's what we produce. And that was long before they realized that there was any difference in their milk versus what these are all called would be colored breeds. So your Jerseys, Ayrshires, Swiss.
Could this cow produce A1?
Jerseys generally not, but that's their genetic makeup. Like they are born going to produce a protein in their milk for their entire life.
So it's the cow, it's not like the feed.
It's not the feed. It is completely a genetically decided protein.
And would you say A2 is more beneficial for a human?
I would say it's the most palatable milk for a human. Science has made it very evident that is what our bodies much more naturally digest. So our goal here is to become all A2.
What do you use your A2 milk for and your A1 milk? Does it make a difference in like products, and whether you're using for raw milk or pasteurized milk? Where does that milk go?
So right now, all of our milk is just milk mixed together. So all of our milk, when we milk the cows, it all goes into one tank together, and that's what we sell. So there are a few farms that do separate the milk. They do have multiple tanks. We have not decided to do anything like that yet. Primarily, our sales and our production kind of dictate that. So because we don't have a surplus of milk right now, we haven't had to make the decision to do anything different. Currently we're at our size that we want to be. So we don't want to be any larger. A lot of people ask us all the time, are we going to increase our size of our herd and our production? No, this is what we want it to be. So at this point where we are is we want to get better at what we're doing already. So we would like to give our animals the best housing possible, the best land management, rotational grazing, anything we can offer to improve their quality of life, their health, their diet, anything that we can continue to work on there, and just continue to make the best product we can. So
off of 14 cows, how many gallons of milk are you producing?
So we're producing about 100 gallons of milk a day right now, and that suits our market here, and we do some wholesale. So
and then how much of that 100 gallons, how does it get divvied up? Like raw milk, pasteurized, cheese, whatever else?
So we are, I would say, about 70% raw, and typically the other 30% would be our pasteurized. When we have a surplus, that milk we send to a gentleman that helps make us other products.
So 70% is raw.
Yeah, raw is our top seller.
And is that based on the demand of your customers?
Yes. So when we started, I didn't know who would be buying raw milk. I didn't know who our customer base would be. I knew from working at another local business that there was interest and there wasn't local availability. So that was really what we based the decision to start it with. And so over the years, it's been incredible to see our families, they're young families. They're people feeding children, or they're elders that remember raw milk when they were, a kid, and everyone in between. I mean, I could never imagine the population of people that are seeking raw milk and good food, and it's wonderful. Now,
it's possible here because we're in Pennsylvania.
Yes.
Where it's legal to sell raw milk.
Yes.
What does that look like?
Yeah, so in Pennsylvania, we are fortunate that they do allow raw milk sales. You have to acquire a license, so we have to have an inspector come out and inspect our facilities to make sure that we are producing milk in an appropriate and clean environment. And then she also has to inspect our bottling facilities to make sure that where we're packaging the milk is also an appropriate, clean facility. So we have an inspector that comes. She comes very regularly, actually, because we also pasteurize the milk. So she's here almost every other month between her rotations of inspections. And then in addition to that, we have a person come from a laboratory every 2 weeks, and she takes a sample of our milk to make sure that our milk is free of bacteria and infection or anything that shouldn't be in our milk. And she also takes every 6 months a water sample and an additional milk sample that checks for any pathogens in our water or our milk. So that's going to be your Listeria, Salmonella, E. coli. And so in Pennsylvania, it's very closely regulated.
Would you say that helps you, or is it a burden?
I personally think that it's a good thing, because I want to be producing a product that I know can go home to your family and you can feed them. I don't ever want to be in if Pennsylvania didn't require that, I would do it on my own. I tell people all the time that come in and ask, oh, we're curious about raw milk, we're not sure. And I said, well, here's the deal. It's just like your raw vegetables.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's the same concept. Beneficial things you get out of it nutritionally, better raw than cooked, but also risks the same. You hear about on the news the romaine lettuce that had E. coli, it was all recalled. You need to be smart, and that's why I think this relationship of being able to come to the farm and meet your farmer, walk into our barns, you're making the decision yourself. I'm okay with what I'm seeing and hearing. I feel comfortable and safe, and I think that's so vital, particularly with milk you're consuming raw, and the same with vegetables and things like that you're getting out of someone's garden. Like, getting the opportunity to go there and make that conscientious decision yourself that you feel good about this, I think is so, so important.
Pennsylvania is only a few states that allows it, right?
It's really incredible to me how restrictive it is, considering regulation like this is not that hard. Like, I know they have to have the people to facilitate the inspections and labs to facilitate the testing, but they're there anyway because there's other, like in Pennsylvania, I mean, our inspector that inspects our facility, she also has to go inspect all these different food facilities that sell ice cream products and things like that, like all dairy products. So the jobs are there to be filled anyway. So, giving the opportunity for farms like this to exist, I wish that it was allowed in more states. I wish that they could come up with better solutions of how to make it work, because it's a wonderful thing that just needs some guidelines, and it would be great for more people to have the availability.
So where does the milking process start?
Yeah, so if you come in here, you'll see where our milk house is. So this was new as of last year. This is the barn where we milk the cows. So the cows come in here. The milkers are hooked to this pipeline, and this is where they eat their breakfast and dinner. Cows love routine. They are very excited to come in here. They're,
it's important that they're in a calm, relaxed state while they're being milked, right?
Yep. So they come in, they eat, they're happy.
So the milk comes back into this room?
Yeah, so it comes out of the cows back in here.
So it goes right from the cow into the tank.
Yeah, so it goes through a filter. So it goes through this pipeline into this jar. This is called the receiving jar. So this is where all the milk collects, first coming from the cows. And then it gets pumped up through this pump here, down this line, And this is what you call the swing line. So this line would be over here, and there's a filter in it. So it's called a sock filter. So this is a filter that you would put into this pipe, and then all of the milk going into that tank is going to go through this filter, and it's a very fine filter.
And what does that do?
So this catches any debris that may have, mistakenly got in there, because like I said, you already washed the cow, prepped the cow, you squeeze a little bit of milk out of each quarter to make sure it looks healthy.
Each cow is producing the same
each day
amount of milk each day.
Yeah, so you roughly know what to be expecting from that cow. So if they come in and they look off, you're going to notice. Or if they don't, their udder doesn't look very full, and usually they have tons of milk, you're going to notice right away. So because we had such a wet spring and we've had a lot of grasses coming in, and then we got this cooler weather, the cows had been staying inside a lot during the day and eating a lot of dry hay. Well, then the last couple of days, the weather got really cool. So they're like, run out to the pasture and eat more grass. Well, that grass can sometimes upset their stomach at first if they're eating more of it than they had been because of the high heat temperature.
Yeah, how does the seasons does that affect their milk production?
Yes. So it affects their production, and it affects the components that's in the milk because of what they're eating. So in the spring, when the grasses all are first coming in, and we're getting a lot of rain and everything's going in, there's a lot of sugar in the grass, so they think it's really sweet and delicious, but it's also a lot of water. So usually the components of their milk, like their fat and protein and things, will dip down. So then as we start to go into fall, those grasses are going to start to become much more dense in nutrition, because they're different types of grasses that grow in the cool weather, but they also are much more concentrated. They're not like these big tall shoots of sugary water. And so, you think of like a watermelon. So the grass in the spring is like watermelon. It's a lot of hydration and sugar. Whereas, your grasses and things in the fall are going to be shorter, more concentrated, a lot more nutritionally packed foods.
So your milk is better quality in
going into the fall, fall, winter, because it's a lot more dense nutrition. They're not just oversaturating themselves with hydration.
Is there a point in the year where they produce more milk than other parts?
So the spring is usually more milk. It just can be a little more watered down, but at the same time, then you also get the flip side of the higher keratin levels because they're eating grass. So then you're going to get this beautiful, rich golden color. So it's very interesting, like the different things. So your spring grasses, that's why if you ever heard of the company Kerrygold butter, that's like this bright gold butter is from the keratin, which is naturally in the grasses. So when your grasses start coming in, your fresh grasses, that's where it is. You kind of lose that in your dry forages. It's not as prevalent there. But your fresh grasses, you get that golden color.
So it's always changing.
It's always changing.
So it all goes into the tank here raw.
Yep.
And then it gets chilled, right?
Yes, so this is cool. So right now this milk is between 38 to 40 degrees. It has an agitator. So it's on a timer. It's going to mix all the milk together, make sure it all uniformly stays cold.
And why chill it immediately?
So that preserves it. It's going to preserve the flavor and the quality of the milk to cool it down as fast as possible. So while you're milking, this compressor would be running the whole time, chilling the milk, and the agitator would be running the whole time. And so the idea is to cool it down as fast as possible to keep the longevity of its life. Because if you don't do that, the cultures and bacteria that are naturally found in there, is they're warm, you're incubating them. They're going to continue to grow. When you cool it down, you're pausing them growing anymore. So that's why when you consume it, your body is warm, right? Our body temperature is 98 degrees. So you're warming those bacteria and things back up when you're consuming it. And that's why something like raw milk makes perfect sense, because it has good bacteria in it. It's bringing good bacteria that's being warmed up, brought back to life in your belly, just like yeast, right? You're making bread. You activate your yeast. You're activating the bacteria again.
I never thought of it like that.
Yeah.
So it goes from the tank.
Yep. So this hose here is, there's a pump and this long hose, and then we're going to pump it over to our processing room. So this was the original milk house on the farm, and also was our original milk house when we started here. We bucket milked and we carried all our milk over here. And
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, we have Trish over here. Don't mind us making a little video. So this is our processing room. So you can see in here, everything's very small. So we have our little 100-gallon tank. So any raw milk coming over can go right into that tank and be held in there the same as the other one, chilled, hanging out in there. And then this little guy is our vat pasteurizer. It's only 30 gallons.
So all like the 70% of the milk that's going to be used for raw goes into that tank, and then right into the bottle.
Yep. So the cold milk's pumped over here and then pumped into the jugs and goes on the shelf. That's the end of the story for that traveling until it goes home with you.
Okay.
And so that's the raw milk, and then the pasteurized milk will go into here as batches of up to 30 gallons at a time, and it's like a double boiler. So it has a heating unit in there. It cooked and stirred. You can see it's agitating right now. Stirred the milk, and this records all your temperatures. So it recorded all of our temperatures of bringing it up to temperature, holding the temperature, and cooling it back down.
So back to the pasteurization, what you would find in a store, how is that being pasteurized versus how this is being pasteurized?
So this is the vat. So this is put into one big vessel, and it's all heated up and stirred continuously. And then typically your milk at the store is usually flash heated. So it's cooked to very hot temperatures, like I said, 160 or above, but very quickly, and then cooled back down. So it's basically like
zapping the.
Yeah, it's a super hot, super fast procedure to heat that up. So this is slow. This is gentle. This is, it takes about 2.5 hours to go through the process.
And what does that entail? Does that preserve certain bacteria?
Yeah, so it's because you're not cooking it as hot, and because you're cooking it slowly and cooling it slowly, you're also not tainting the flavor of the milk.
Now, a 20-degree difference makes that much of a difference.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The amount of different enzymes that can't withstand that 160-degree temperature, is incredible. But it makes a lot of sense. You think about your oven, you're cooking something, and you set your temperature a little higher, you're going to burn your food.
I guess that makes sense, yeah.
So it does.
So is there a negative effect of doing it this way versus raw? Like, what's the main differences?
You're still cooking it. So raw is the best way to consume your milk as far as nutritional.
But this isn't like inherently bad for you?
This is not. This is like a really nice way to produce a pasteurized product. So if you're concerned about bacteria, if you're just somebody who maybe doesn't use your milk fast enough, we have families where kids leave the milk out on the counter all the time. Raw milk you have to be careful with. It's delicate. If you got to keep it cold, you got to keep it in the right place. Whereas pasteurized milk, you have a lot more grace period.
I see.
You can leave that out on your counter for a half hour while you're having your cereal, and it'll still keep just fine.
I see. If you buy milk in the store, is there any that's pasteurized up to 160 degrees? Is there any nutritional value to that milk versus this and then that?
There is some, sure. There's still, like, if you couldn't purchase either of these options and you had to buy your milk from the grocery store, there's certainly still benefits to consuming milk, absolutely.
Or is it mostly just consuming fat at that rate? That's what I've kind of seen. I don't know if that's true though.
I would say you have to choose wisely, because like some people will be like, oh, I have to buy at the grocery store, so I bought organic. Well, your grocery store organic milk is ultra pasteurized. It's actually the most highest temperature pasteurization because it has the lowest customer market, so it moves the slowest and it needs the longest shelf life. So organic milk at the grocery store, nutritionally speaking, is actually the worst for you because it's completely destroyed.
And then this would be like the next step up in terms of nutritional value? From
raw milk or
from like ultra pasteurized? This is not ultra pasteurized.
This is not, no. So ultra pasteurized, then you're like regular grocery store milk. And then I would say this, and then raw. So
then it goes into the bottles and then over to your store?
Yeah, it's over to the store, ready for customers to purchase. The milk that you're going to purchase in our store is going to be really, really fresh. Literally, like this morning's milk that she's processing was yesterday morning and afternoon's milking.
Is it true that raw milk never goes bad?
Yeah, so as you asked before about like why cool down the milk, and I said that you would make cheese. So raw milk basically the natural cultures in it will start to ferment. It's very, very flexible to turn into other things because you're taking something that was in its raw natural form and you're just taking it to its next phase of whatever it's going to be. So it's, you know.
How long can it last in the refrigerator for?
So we date our raw milk state requirements are 10 days. Usually what I tell people also in addition to that is once you open it and start using it, I would recommend you use it within 5 days. It won't go bad, but it will start to smell off and sour. And like I said, you can use it for other things. So
what if I drink the milk like 15 to 20 days after? Is it bad?
I mean, I would consider like
spoiled?
It's not. So pasteurized milk's going to spoil. It's going to be bad. And it's because you took out the good cultures. And it's only having the fermentation happening because of introduced other bacteria. You think about it, you cooked the bacteria out of it. But then when you're opening it and pouring it and there's air getting in, you've introduced other foreign bacteria. So that's basically developing the spoilage from introduced bacteria only. Whereas the raw milk had its good bacteria. So it might be fighting some of the introduced bacteria, but in the right environment, it's working within its own natural bacteria that it had. And so it can develop into something good and it still can be usable. Yeah.
So then it all goes into here.
Yeah. So into the store, the milk goes, and we have all of the, different products that we would produce. So like we said, the raw milk was just jugged and put right on the shelf.
And so your mom is here too. You work with
Yeah, so my mom is a huge part of the farm. So she is our our cashier and farm store boss. She always throws the hard stuff on me, but yeah.
So
it's a family operation.
It's a family operation. I love working with families. I love watching families grow, and I love it when families are intentional about finding good food for their kiddos.
Yes.
And learning also where the food comes from. So I have built a lot of relationships with families, and I'm learning more and more about the things that people want to know. And because of my career as a nurse, I also can give sources, like that they might be interested in. So it's great, and I love supporting my family, and this is how I do it. Yeah,
there's always so much to learn, I feel like. And always new things popping up, and
no, it's always a journey. Every day is a journey because you don't know what you're going to encounter and learn or teach someone or whatever it may be that comes through the doors. So it's been great.
Well, I remember I was back here in January, and this was the first raw milk I ever had.
Oh my goodness!
So,
wow. Yeah. Well, thank you for letting us be your first. I hope you've gotten to try all kinds since then.
I've tried a few others since then, but yeah, this was the start.
This is the start. That's awesome.
Keep up the great work. Yeah.
Well, perfect.
And thank you for having me. This has been great to learn all about this. So.
Well, I'm glad you were here, and like you said, it's the opportunity to educate and share the honest, good news about what farms are and what they're doing, and that we want to be here to answer questions and help you follow in your journey of good food.
Yes. Yeah. Well, thank you, Abby.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Don't forget to subscribe and hear more stories about the people behind a healthier future in this playlist right here.